All right, so I'm with Keith. I wanted to talk to him about the emotional standpoint going into the winter. Maybe it's your first winter, maybe you're going to your 10th winter, and sometimes it gets difficult. So I wanted to talk to you about the emotional side of that and getting through that garbage that you go through.
Which type of garbage?
I guess the head trash that you walk into. So maybe how do you stay motivated? How do you stay pumped to focus and get yourself back into the next year?
That's deep. So I was on the phone with my buddy William the other day. He's a tree guy. This is talk about adrenaline. In any type of small business, you get addicted to selling and closing jobs, performing the work, even if you do the manual labor side of it. And what happens is you get this high and you're constantly going, then all of a sudden the winter, it stops. If you do snow, it's a thing, but still it's different. And now all of a sudden, like almost like somebody who's an addict, your supply is gone and you crash. So the first few weeks of the winter, if you can relate to freaking out and just like you're like in this anticipatory mode, and it's very, very hard to settle down and then start implementing all the plans and things you promised yourself you do when the winter comes. It's even harder if you didn't save up for the winter, so the financial aspect has a huge component to that. I went through all that, just terrifying winters, going crazy, worried about money, literally going schizophrenic and bipolar out of my mind and going into depression, staying up for days on end, sleeping in the middle, like no structure at all, and it was insane. But now there's two different parts of that. One is I open up a separate bank account. It's a savings account called Winter Savings. So as soon as we start in the spring, there's already money going aside for that. Specifically so I can do payroll all winter long and take draws from the business and an extra money in the savings to get out of the hole in the spring. So it might take a couple years to get this going, but you can have, this is how you do it. Create, because the money is so important, because it's tied into our survival, right? Money is oxygen. Without it, like you're drowning. And I know that you know that, but set up a budget. How much is all of your winter bills, your business bills, and your personal bills? How many of those business expenses that are the variable costs and the fixed costs can you pay off and just totally get rid of and minimize or put down to nothing by the time, for me it's when December 1st hits. So all the money is away in the tax accounts, prepaid. The insurance policies are completely paid off by December 1st. And there's X amount, tens of thousands in the bank or whatever it is for you, and that's already set there. So now when winter comes, just sleep in, take a nap, recharge, do a whole body detox, and by all means get a gym membership. Find something that you can stay active in so you have structure and that you're getting that physical exercise. The gym membership was a huge thing for me so I wouldn't get depressed. And then stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. You might be totally exhausted by the time winter comes and you literally just need to sleep in for like 2 weeks straight. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Where you're an absolute mess. By the time winter has come for me every other year, I was so completely exhausted to the point where I actually thought I was developing an illness, like a physical illness. I was afraid I was going to end up in the hospital. It was really, really bad. Then paranoia sets in, then my hypochondria sets in, and by the time January comes, I thought in January I'd be crushing it in the summer, January comes, I'm a complete mess in a basket case, and I'm not even resourceful. I'm like, how did this happen? I got hijacked. So basically when you go through that so many times, you start to plan for it, and you know what's going to happen. You anticipate it in advance. It's like when the check engine light goes on inside of you. If we were in a car driving on the highway, would you just hit the gas and keep going and blow up the motor? No. So with yourself, when you start to get burned out, you can plan all that in advance. Stick to the plan, save money for the winter. And what's the next thing? That's a long answer I have.
It's a long answer. But okay, I would say, basically to sum it up, you're saying, one, I know you talk about going into spring and your pricing higher. So that's going to be critical next year. Go in and price higher. Don't pretend you're broke, or don't act like you're broke. Even if you are broke, pretend there's money in the bank. So I picked up the Profit First method from you this year.
Profit First, Mike McAllowitz, yeah.
Yeah, so now my bank account's aren't completely drained. I'm not going into winter in a desperate, starving hunger mode. When I go into the next year, I can actually price right. And then when it rolls back to winter, I'm not completely hungry. So stacking some money away, pricing.
Yeah, it'll take a couple of years to get this thing going.
Yeah.
You might be able to do it quick though, if you're focused.
Well, you talked about the roller coaster. That's a huge one. So if you want to keep your emotional stability and be sane in the winter, part of it's when you get so broke and you're so drained and you're just exhausted because you're having fights with your wife and you're feeling like you can't get anything accomplished because you know the bank account's at zero and you're going, I have work lined up. So part of that is making sure there's money next year. So going in this year,
Dude, you're actually hitting a vibe with me. So in the summer months, if I have to work 7 days a week, if I have to work 90 hours a week to make sure, it's like Noah's Ark, you know the flood's coming, but everybody else thinks you're crazy and you're out there building this ark. I had to become a completely selfish, vindictive person with my time to the people that are around me and cause fights with my wife and my family members. No longer, I don't have any personal life or friends anymore because I'm working constantly like a squirrel, stacking away nuts because when the winter comes and that flood comes, we're going to be smooth. And that's just the way it is. And so I have to repeatedly say to my wife, listen, it's just June, July, May, June, July. That's all that it is. I got to work like crazy right now. Everything that you want to do in your life besides for your business just has to sit on the sidelines and you just let shit keep stacking up because all that matters in this season is stacking paper. And like the high times, you take all of this and you sock it all away for the winter so you don't have this. You smooth it out so it's like this. And the only way you can do that is by raising your prices. But when you raise your prices, because that was I used to get so mad when people would say crap like this. Any business advice, I would get so angry I wanted to start screaming at the person that called him a liar because I knew my reality and I knew what was happening in my life and my business. And what I learned is that I was thinking in black or white, all or none. I was being extreme. And you can have both. You can always have both. There's always a way. So if you raise the prices and you think you're going to lose clients, learn marketing and advertising. Get really, really good at the fortune is in the follow-up. We just talked about this here at the Launchpreneur Academy. And closing as many jobs as possible at the prices you want. If you have a way to make your phone ring off the hook, so you have so many phone calls and leads coming in, now you got your choice. It's just like you go to a buffet and there's so much food, you literally just take the filet mignon and the steak or shrimp and lobster, whatever you want. You skim the cream off the top. But you can't do that if you're eating off the dollar menu and you think that's all that exists. So it took me a long time to get to that point where you're just cherry picking the jobs that you want so you maintain profitable. So here's a new rule. You set a policy up in this all ties full circle, like in your business, 50% gross profit margin. I can't do it unless I'm making 50% gross profit. So if I go to give a customer a quote, I stop and I say, wait a second, is it 50% gross profit? Nope, I got to recalculate my numbers. And you might be scared giving the customer the quote. It doesn't matter if you're cutting lawns or doing landscaping or hardscaping, whatever it is, be willing to walk away. When you get to the point where you're ready to bet everything on it and the customer can feel that confidence, you have to start getting it all the time. I'm mad because I wish I knew this stuff a long time ago because you can't even build a business, let alone a profitable one, unless you're making high profit margins. So I'm years behind the 8 ball. I feel so far behind. Yeah.
All right, so one last thing I want to talk about. You can hit on it if you want, but as you're going into winter, it's going to be hard. It's going to feel like it's long. Spring's going to come back around. Don't worry. Get a job if you have to. Do whatever you got to do to get through winter so you can do it again next year. But here's the one thing I want you to do. When you feel overwhelmed and you're stressed out of your mind, calm down, breathe. Just breathe a little bit. Know that it's going to be okay. Refocus. Come back to it in 10 minutes, but make sure you get back to it and build a strategy. Build that plan, follow through. And that's what all of winter should be, is building a plan to follow through in spring so that you don't go into a mess.
Yeah, and to add to that, I'm not saying anything against what you said when you said everything is going to be okay. It really actually is. But I like what our friend Jordan Peterson said. He goes, "No, everything's not going to be okay." When he said that to me, it was riveting. Like when you are that in tune with your own mortality and in tune with like the reality of the situation that we're, kind of all stranded out here in the Pacific Ocean, swimming for our lives. It's feast or famine. That type of thought process will pull a soldier out of you. I used to look in my eyes in the mirror in the morning, and I would go like this. You ever seen those movies like they're in the jungle and they're putting on war paint because they're going to fight to the death? That type of vengeance and that mentality is what will allow you to get to the next level. So in the winter, if you don't recharge your batteries and eat healthy and get proper sleep and catch up on family time and do all those things, you might not even have the inspiration, let alone the motivation to work on a plan for the spring. Because if you did all that and you worked your guts out, yet you didn't see any reward and you don't have anything real to show for it, or an elevation in lifestyle, or a certain amount of money in the bank, or the ability to put Christmas presents under the tree like you want, it's going to feel like you're getting punished for working hard. So I think that the reward is the most important part. And so it's a constant uphill battle. My friend Scotty, he's like, I talk about him on stage today. He's one of my mentors. He said success is like, I mean, what do I know? I have so much farther to go. Like I have this little tiny business in Michigan, and I'm learning so much. He said success is like a ladder. You don't just climb up the ladder. You go like this. He's like going like this. I'm laughing my ass off because every time you think you're going up, you're going way back down. And it's like, listen, the more business owners that I know, it's just a long, hard, grueling process. It's a living hell. Until you get to the point where you have like, I don't know what it is for you, like 50 grand in the bank or something. And like all your bills are paid and finally you have options. And it's a great feeling.
Dude, awesome.
Did I talk too much? I'm sorry.
No, not at all, man. Yeah, I'd let you go
I just
for
can't stop, bro.
I'd let you go for a couple hours if you wanted, but
I can't go that long.
I'll just say,
I appreciate your time.
Okay.
I value your time. So.